You know that specific feeling when you wake up, you reach for your phone, and before your eyes have even focused, you're just hit.
The doom scroll.
The doom scroll. It's like a wall of bad news. The economy, politics, the latest crisis, and whatever optimism you scraped together the night before, just, it evaporates.
It does.
Right.
It feels so incredibly fragile.
It is fragile, and we're constantly bombarded with reasons to worry.
Our brains just aren't wired to handle that volume of global stress.
Exactly. And honestly, it makes you wonder what actually anchors you when everything else feels so shaky. Because I've tried the whole just stay positive thing, and let me tell you, it is exhausting. It feels like I'm trying to hold up a collapsing tent with a toothpick.
That is a vivid image and an accurate one. Willpower is a finite resource. It runs out.
It does.
And that's why for this month's topic, we're looking at something that, well, it claims to be a whole lot stronger than just positive thinking.
We are. We're looking at a pretty profound section of the Bible. 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 3 through 9. And I have to say, this doesn't read like some ancient history lesson.
Not at all. It reads like a survival guide.
A survival guide for the soul. I love that. Because what we're talking about today isn't about wishful thinking. The theme is living hope.
Yes.
And we want to move from just knowing about hope, like a definition, to actually experiencing a shift, a real transformation in how we handle stress.
That's the key word, transformation.
Yeah.
Information alone doesn't change you. Experience does. And to really get why this text has so much weight, you have to look at the guy who wrote it.
Peter.
And he wasn't writing this from some ivory tower. This is the fisherman, the guy who was impulsive, loud, and frankly, kind of a mess sometimes.
Right. This is the guy who walked on water, which is amazing, but we always forget the second part.
He sank.
He took his eyes off Jesus and immediately panicked and started to sink.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He knows what fear feels like. He knows what drowning feels like. And even heavier than that, this is the man who denied knowing Jesus 3 times. When the pressure was on, he crumbled.
So he knows what failure tastes like.
Intimately. And, just as important, he knows what redemption feels like. So when Peter writes about hope, he's not offering a cute slogan. He's offering the lifeline that pulled him out of the dark.
Okay, so let's get into the text itself. He starts with this massive phrase, new birth into a living hope. Now, new birth is poetic, but I want to stop on living hope. Why add the word living?
It's a crucial distinction.
Yeah.
Think about how we use the word hope today. It's usually an expression of uncertainty.
Like, I hope I get that promotion.
Or, I hope it doesn't rain. Or, I hope I find a parking spot.
I hope my team doesn't blow the lead in the 4th quarter.
Exactly. That kind of hope is basically crossing your fingers. It's passive. But the Greek word Peter uses here implies something totally different. He calls it a living hope because it's active. It's breathing.
So it's not just an idea in your head.
No, it's a power. And notice what he anchors it to. He doesn't say hope because you're a good person. He says this hope comes through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead.
That's a very specific anchor point.
It's a historical anchor. Peter is saying, I saw the worst case scenario. I saw death win. And then 3 days later, I saw death get shattered. Because the tomb is empty, the ultimate catastrophe. Death itself has been defeated.
So this living hope is certainty, not just optimism.
It changes the dynamic of your reality today because the source of it is alive right now.
That is a huge shift in perspective. Moving from, I hope this works out, to, I know how the story ends. But then he moves on to tell us what we have to look forward to. Verse 4 talks about an inheritance.
Yes, and the language here is so rich. The Greek is, it's just punchier.
Let's do it. What are we looking at?
Peter uses 3 specific negative adjectives. He says this inheritance is imperishable, undefiled, and unfading.
Okay, those are big words. Break them down for us. Why those 3?
Well, he's deliberately contrasting this inheritance with everything we chase after in the world. Think about the ultimate prize in Peter's day. If you won the Olympic Games, what did you get?
A gold medal.
Not yet. You got a laurel wreath, a crown made of leaves.
Which turns brown and crunchy in about 3 days.
Exactly. It fades, it rots. Peter uses a word, amaranthine, that refers to a mythical flower that never dies. He's saying, the glory you're chasing here, it's compost. The glory God has for you, it never loses its shine.
Wow. What about the other words?
Imperishable and undefiled. An inheritance of land or money could be seized by the government or stolen. In our terms, think about the stock market.
Oh, don't remind me. Inflation eats it. Recessions shrink it. Houses need new roofs. Cars rust. Even our own bodies.
Entropy wins. Everything here is subject to decay. But Peter's saying there is an inheritance kept in a vault in heaven that is completely untouchable. Inflation-proof, recession-proof, rust-proof.
I love that vault analogy, but I have to play devil's advocate for a second.
Go for it.
It's great to know I have $1 billion in a vault somewhere. But if I can't pay my rent today, or if I'm drowning in anxiety right now, doesn't that just feel a little, pie in the sky?
That is the tension, isn't it? If it was just about the afterlife, it wouldn't help us now. But look at verse 5. This is where it gets practical. It says, you are shielded by God's power.
Shielded by God's power. That phrase jumped out at me.
The Greek word there is a military term. It literally means to be garrisoned or guarded by a sentinel.
Like having a bodyguard.
Like having an entire battalion stationed around your soul. And I think this addresses the anxiety you just mentioned. Usually we feel like we have to be the guards.
Yes. I feel like I have to guard my faith, guard my mood. If I let go for 1 second, it all falls apart. It's so much pressure.
And that pressure is exactly what this text wants to relieve. Peter is saying, stop white-knuckling your life. You are not the one keeping your soul secure. God is. His power is the sentry.
That is actually a massive relief. It takes the burden off my performance.
Exactly. It's not about your grip on God. It's about his grip on you.
But, and there's always a but with Peter. He pivots in verses 6 and 7 to something that feels very real. He admits that trials will come.
He does. In all this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you may have had to suffer grief in all kinds of trials.
All kinds of trials. I appreciate the honesty. He's not doing that toxic positivity thing where you just pretend you're fine.
Right. He's saying you can have this deep, living hope while you are grieving. The two can coexist.
But how do we do that? Because when I'm in a trial, my first reaction isn't, great, I'm shielded. It's something is wrong. God must be mad at me.
That's the natural reaction. We interpret pain as punishment. But Peter gives us this incredible analogy of the refiner's fire to completely reframe how we see suffering. He compares our faith to gold.
Okay, let's dig into this. How did that process actually work?
It's fascinating. To get pure gold, a refiner would take raw ore full of rock and dirt and put it in a crucible. Then they apply intense heat.
Heat, that seems like it would destroy it.
To the untrained eye, yes, it looks destructive. The gold melts. But as it melts, the impurities, the dross, they separate and rise to the surface. And the refiner skims that junk off.
So the heat is necessary to get the garbage out.
It's indispensable. Without the fire, the gold stays impure. It stays weak. Peter's applying this to us. The heat of life, the stress, the struggles, it brings things to the surface.
Things like fear.
Fear, doubt, self-reliance. Things we hide really well when life is easy. But when the heat turns up, those impurities float to the top where we and God can see them. The point is, the refiner isn't trying to ruin the gold. He's doing it to increase its value.
So the heat isn't a punishment. It's a preparation.
It's preparation. But here's the detail that really stuck with me. This is the most beautiful part.
What is it?
In ancient metallurgy, the refiner didn't just walk away. He sat right there, staring at the crucible, because if it got too hot, the metal would be damaged. And do you know how he knew the gold was finally pure?
Was there a test or something?
It was a visual test. He kept skimming the dross until the molten gold became like a mirror. The moment the refiner could see his own reflection perfectly in the metal, he knew the work was done.
Wow, okay. That hits hard.
It does, doesn't it?
So the goal of the suffering isn't just to make me tough. The goal is so that when people look at me, they see the refiner. They see Jesus.
Precisely. The goal is reflection. The struggle is shaping you into something that can carry his image.
It reminds me of that line from our topic breakdown, no tear is wasted.
Yes. That's a profound truth. Every unanswered prayer, every painful season, it's not meaningless chaos. It's purposeful refining.
I think that's the difference between despair and endurance. If I think the pain is random, I panic. But if I know there's a refiner watching the temperature, I can endure that.
You can more than endure. Peter says you can have inexpressible and glorious joy. Which brings us to verses 8 and 9.
Inexpressible joy. That sounds big. But first he points out a paradox. Though you have not seen him, you love him.
And this is the essence of faith. We live in a culture that demands visual proof. Pics, it didn't happen, right? But the Christian experience is loving someone you haven't seen with your physical eyes.
And he says because of that trust, we are filled with this joy. But help me out here. How is this joy different from just being happy? Because let's be real, if I have a bad day, I'm not happy. And I don't want to fake it.
And you shouldn't. Happiness is based on happenings. It's circumstantial. Joy, in the biblical sense, is a substance. It's not a mood, it's a condition of the spirit.
So joy can exist in the dark.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, it often shines brightest in the dark. It's a supernatural sense of well-being that comes from connection with God, regardless of the storm outside. The Greek word for inexpressible here means beyond the power of speech.
A joy so deep that words fail.
Exactly. It bypasses the intellect and anchors the soul.
The text mentions receiving the salvation of your souls. And the notes point out this isn't just about something that happens when you die.
No, and that's a huge misconception. We often think of salvation as just fire insurance for the afterlife, but Peter writes in the present tense. We are receiving the outcome of our faith now, this transformation, this refining, this joy. It's a present tense reality.
I love that. It's not just pie in the sky when you die. It's steak on the plate while you wait.
Steak on the plate while you wait. I'm going to
Yeah.
steal that. But yes, it's sustenance for now, resurrection life at work in you on a Tuesday afternoon.
So this brings us to the practical side. We've talked about living hope, the vault, the refiner's fire, inexpressible joy. But what does this actually look like? When you turn this off and walk into a stressful meeting, what do you do?
It has to be actionable. If it stays theoretical, it doesn't change us. And our topic for this month offers some really specific tools.
Let's run through them. What's number one?
First one is write it down. Yes, but specifically journaling evidence. Neuroscientists talk about the negativity bias. Our brains are like Velcro for bad experiences. They stick instantly. But they're like Teflon for good experiences. They slide right off.
So we literally forget the good stuff.
We do. It's a survival mechanism. So when you are in a crisis, your brain will lie to you and say, God has never helped you. You need a written record, an evidence log of God's faithfulness.
You have to externalize the data because your internal hard drive will wipe it. I like that. What's next?
Encourage someone else.
Wait, if I'm struggling, shouldn't I be seeking encouragement? Why am I giving it away?
Because hope works like a boomerang. When you articulate hope to someone else, when you send that text that says, hey, God's got this, you are actually hearing yourself say it. You reinforce that truth in your own spirit.
That's so true. Helping someone else stand up usually forces you to get off the floor yourself. Okay, number 3.
Memorize the truth. Specifically, commit 1 Peter 1.3 to memory.
Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ.
Exactly. You need this in your operating system. When anxiety hits at 3 in the morning, you don't want to be fumbling for a Bible app. You need that truth embedded in your mind so it can override the panic.
It's rewriting the script your mind runs on. And the last one,
Worship.
even when you don't feel like it.
Especially when you don't feel like it. Worship is a choice, not a feeling. It's an act of spiritual warfare. When you choose to praise despite your feelings, you are defying the darkness. You're realigning your perspective with reality.
An act of rebellion against despair.
It is. It's declaring, I have a living hope, even when my eyes can't see it. It opens the door for that inexpressible joy to flood in.
So these aren't just a to-do list. They're ways to keep the fire burning.
They're ways to keep the hope living. A living thing needs to be fed.
This has been so rich. I feel like I look at my own challenges a little differently now. The heat feels less like a punishment and more like progress.
That's the goal.
Before we wrap up, is there one final thought you want to leave everyone with? Something to chew on.
I think it comes back to that image of the refiner. We spend so much time praying, God, get me out of this, turn down the heat. And that's okay. But I want to challenge you to ask a different question.
What's the question?
Ask yourself, if the heat you are feeling right now isn't a punishment, but a preparation for a glory you can't see yet, how does that change how you face tomorrow?
Wow. That turns the obstacle into the way.
It does. It gives purpose to the pain. And when you have purpose, you can have joy.
Listen, wherever you are right now, whether you feel like you're on a mountaintop or in the middle of the fire, remember this. Your future is secure. It's in the vault. It's untouchable.
And the God who raised Jesus from the dead is shielding you right now. You don't have to carry it all yourself.
You really don't. Walk in that inexpressible joy today. Thanks for joining us.
Goodbye, everyone. Keep hope alive.